Hello, I am Fernanda Paiva, Hitchhiking Stars, and here we are to talk about the lunations. So let's have a look at the next new moon. So this voice message here for you is all about the new moon that's happening on the 6th of June. So the 6th of the 6th, interestingly, and is also happening at the 16th degree of Gemini. So it's a new moon in Gemini on a Thursday, which is Jupiter Day. So let's think about this new moon. New moons are always connected to the beginning of a cycle. So it has somehow like a somewhat fresh quality about it. So something that we can start, a new seed that we can plant, a new beginning in our lives. So what would that beginning look like with Gemini? So Gemini is an air sign. It will be talking about bridges that we can form, bridges between dualities. I think this is one of the deepest ways of looking at Gemini. So Gemini likes to make bridges, and not only with other people, but also within themselves, in their own psyches, in their own with their own splits, in their own as I said, dualities. So this new moon carries a little bit of that flavor, of that life quality there as well. But there are a few other things that I'm very excited about this new moon as well, and I want to share it with you here. So we have quite a few planets in Gemini at the moment of this new moon. So Jupiter, Mercury, the Sun and the Moon, and Venus as well. So there are 5 planets in the sky that will be in Gemini at the time of this new moon. So it's a very, very strong, very strongly Gemini flavored this time, and this new moon and this lunar cycle as well, because it's the beginning of a lunar cycle. So 5 planets in Gemini. We also have Pluto, which is still in Aquarius. So there's another planet that's in the air element. And in fact, all of the planets in the sky, or most of the planets in the sky, and certainly all of the personal planets, will be in the extroverted signs. So Gemini is air, which is considered masculine energy and extroverted, and Mars is also in Aries. So Mars is at the end of Aries. It will be shifting to Taurus a few days later, but at the time of this new moon, Mars is also going to be in a extroverted sign. So Aries is fire element. So again, we have a lot of yang energy in the sky. And when I talk about masculine energy, I do not really mean in a gender binary sense, but in a sort of a basic yin yang nature kind of energy. So what does that extra extroversion is great. So what does that amount of extroverted energy tells me? It tells me that this cycle is a lot about going out, getting out into the world. It is a lot about self-expression as well, doing things in the world, exchanging things with other people as well, especially when we have 5 planets in Gemini. So there's a lot about communicating something with others, sharing our ideas, sharing our thoughts as well. It can be a wonderful new moon for a new learning journey. So something that you've been thinking about, you wanted to learn, and you haven't put your head into or put yourself into that course yet. This is a great cycle to start doing that, taking up those courses, or doing that book club, or writing that blog that you wanted to write. Anything that has to do with expressing yourself or gathering more information as well, and expanding yourself intellectually. And expanding yourself intellectually, I mean, the word expanding does not really feel as a Gemini word, but the word expanding here in the case of this new moon is really being lent by the presence of Jupiter. So Jupiter will be there in the early degrees of Gemini. So Jupiter is expanding everything that's got to do with Gemini, all of the Gemini flavors. And for you to have a better idea, think about where is Gemini in your birth chart. Do you have Gemini in your ascendant, or on your 10th house, or in your 3rd house? Whatever it is that Gemini is, that area is bound to be expanded for the whole year ahead of us. So it's a year that Jupiter stays in a sign. But this new moon cycle will also be emphasizing this expansion here and this energy of Jupiter. So that's the sort of general feeling that I get from this new moon just by looking at the chart and having this sort of huge amount of Gemini planets drawing my eye towards them. So let's talk about the Sabian symbol as well, because I always bring the Sabian symbols here for you to have a think about imagery. I love imagery. I work with tarot a lot as well, and it's a creative way to think about astrology and astrological symbols as well. So the Sabian symbol for 16 degrees Gemini is the head of a robust youth changes into that of a mature thinker. So there's a kind of a shift here from robust youth. So from the head of a robust youth to a mature thinker. Now, that image for me really resonates with this idea of expansion and this signature of growth that I see very powerfully represented and reflected in this new moon as well. So one, because obviously we have this abundance of Gemini energy. So Gemini is very curious. It's a lot about the head, it's a lot about thinking, it's a lot about new ideas as well. And the newness even more so because it's a new moon. So I get that from the Gemini. But also the ruler of the new moon. So we've got the sun and the moon meeting together in Gemini. The ruler of this new moon is Mercury. And planet Mercury is at 6 degrees Gemini at the time of the new moon, okay? So planet Mercury will be at 6 degrees Gemini, very powerfully placed in its own sign. But this Mercury is also conjoined or very close to Jupiter. So Jupiter is at 2 degrees Gemini, and this Mercury is at 6. So we've got this pair up here between Mercury and Jupiter, with Mercury being the ruler of that sun and the moon. And it just gives me this real strong feeling of a potential for growth. A potential for growth and the potential for changing into a mature thinker as well. I think that Jupiter can bring that as a possibility, as a gift, that we can ask the bigger questions, that we can think big, that we can see the bigger picture as well, that we can look for the meaning behind the things that we want to learn as well, and see how our curiosity can drive us towards our purpose. I think that's a little bit of that flavor here because of this conjunction between Mercury and Jupiter, is ideas that can take us towards this more mature thinker here. But not only that, so we've got this very strong flavor of growth here. And with a strong flavor of growth, I'd like to ask you a question as well. And it's a question for you to think about while we're going through the new moon energy, while the new moon peaks as well. And so you can set some intentions for yourself. And the question is, what do you want in your life? It's a very big question, but it's an important one, because the strong presence of Jupiter here can be a blessing in terms of manifestation, in terms of being optimistic as well, to make important and empowering changes in our lives. And because of the abundance of Gemini, important changes in the way that we think as well, in the way that we think, the way that we communicate, the words that we choose, and the qualities of thought really that we carry with us. So this is a very, very important question for this new moon to take into consideration. But also there are two more things that I really want to share with you about this new moon. And the other thing that I really see resonating with this idea of turning the head of robust youth into a mature thinker. And I really see that reflected in the symbol of the sun and the moon in Gemini in this new moon, forming a square to Saturn. So Saturn will be representing the mature thinker. So there is a challenge here with this energy that this new moon is also reflective of. And with Saturn being in Pisces, it could be also telling us to not forget our intuition, to not forget our connection to spirituality, to the invisible threads that connect all of us. So that side of the higher service as well, I think that's another one, the higher service. And inspired thoughts, inspired ideas as well. So there's that sense of inspiration that I get from that Saturn in Pisces there as well. So there could be challenges around the seeds or around the thoughts or around these changes that we have the possibility or the chance to put into place or to think about it first as well. So there's that sort of energy that's asking you to be very serious about these new ideas, asking you to be very serious and to have a lot of discipline to apply these new seeds, to put them down, to really bring to fruition as well. I think that Saturn is really telling us, how can we measure the excitement and the curiosity of all of that Gemini energy with the heaviness and the seriousness of Saturn. And a Saturn that's in a sign that's a lot less intellectual. So I think as Gemini is about building bridges, like I was saying in the beginning, I also think that we can build a bridge between that Saturn in Pisces and all of these planets in Gemini by taking into consideration for every new idea and new ways of thinking, new ways of communicating, to take into consideration what our beliefs are, what our dreams are as well, and to do all of that with compassion, which is one of the best qualities of Pisces. Doing it with compassion, doing it with understanding that we're not alone and that we're all interconnected as well. So what is our role as individuals in the collective? So I think there's a little bit of that duality here for these new seeds that we plant. Now, the last thing that I want to mention, and the last but not least, is that this new moon will be actually, in fact, a triple conjunction. So a conjunction is when two planets really meet in the sky and get really close to each other. So every new moon is a conjunction between the sun and the moon. But there is another planet that will be at the exact same degree, the same 16th degree of Gemini, and that is Venus. So we've got Venus conjoined with the sun and the moon here. And I really feel that this is definitely highlighting our values in this process. What are our values? So really think, as a Gemini keyword, really think and reflect about your true values. What it is that you really want to learn, that you really want to talk about. Do your thinking support the life that you want to have? Does the choice of words that you make support the person that you want to be? And things like that, because Venus brought in the mixture can also be talking about a new beginning connected to self-worth, to how you treat yourself, to how you love yourself. So I think there's a little bit of that in the mix. How to think about yourself and talk to yourself and talk about yourself in a way that's supportive, that's honoring who you are, your essence, your authenticity, and what you want to do in the world as well. So that's it. I am wishing you all a wonderful new moon in Gemini. I hope that you can plant some really beautiful seeds and make the most of this powerful Gemini energy. And I will be speaking to you all soon.